in my follow-up. So E1 right now, and I just read it too. In Dr. Jackson's wish list, if it's not encompassed within that, this is all E1 already, right? Everything that's at OVU.
Right.
So would we be looking at potentially amending E1 to adopt some of these additional amenities and so forth that they want to put in up there?
We could. I mean, it just depends on what is proposing as far as being put in. You could either amend it, or we may be able to look at doing variances. When you're asking me questions right now, I don't know what they're actually going to do. Everything is in the educational zone. They may have things that as proposals that fit. When they talk about a public dining area, I mean, we may be able to join variances as far as the zoning goes, but I need to know more information about what specifically they will be proposing.
Let's see what the intent of the drafter was.
The intent of the drafter was to just support what they have.
But so just to clarify though on this, if we need to change zoning at some point down the road, that's fine. That's not really necessarily going to affect the annexation process.
Correct.
Of the 9,000.
No, what it could affect is what the property is used for when it's bought.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, then we'll move on. Second item this evening is our discussion on the opioid settlement funds. We've had discussions recently with our resource officers that are at Jackson Middle School. We've had various discussions with the Pickering Group because they're the lead on the new school that's being proposed over in Jackson Park. And so there are some things that are very informative with the after-school activity program survey that was done. Carl, would you care to take us through the survey?
So when we started talking about, or kind of mentioned how we're going to spend this opioid money, we got into, I hear youth a lot. And obviously, everybody's trying to come up with ideas for this. I understand, when I come, Chief Piper actually came over, and it fit the opioid money to spend it on a couple of detective vehicles, which they respond to all overdoses and everything else. That's how it fits. But I understand not spending on that. Let's go towards youth. That's way better than spending on a couple of cars. So that's the direction that I kind of talked about a little bit, and so we took a survey with the middle school kids. Obviously, with and everything we see countrywide right now, we had a little over 100 kids that was missing on the day of the survey. But there was still 340 kids at the school. So you got 340 kids that's right there at Jackson School. And 282 out of those 340, which I think is pretty good for 6th, 7th, 8th graders to actually participate, because it wasn't just like forced. It was, we put it up on the board, you had to take a screenshot of it, you had to actually actively do it on your phone to participate. So they couldn't just sit there and goof off like I probably would have, instead of participating. So 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, pretty even as far as each group that took it. Things that they asked them was, would they participate in after-school activities, or do they currently? And 163 of them said yes. 119 said no. What kind of activities do they participate in? And basically, why wouldn't they? So the ones that said no, the reasons that they don't was scheduling conflicts was 30, lack of interest 71, none available 61, cost was only one of them. Which of the following after-school activities would you be interested in participating in? School, gaming, like video gaming and different games, was in 222 of the kids, and you can pick more than one, as many as you wanted. 222 of the kids said that. 51 said music lessons, 103 said arts and crafts, 14 said tutoring, and 42 said mentoring and leadership lessons. What time would be the most convenient? After school activities. 4 to 6, 6 to 8 directly after school. 181 of them. So very high percentage of them right after school. 4 to 6 was 60 of them. So The times that we were kind of thinking about was right after school, 3 to 6 o'clock, 3:30 to 6 o'clock, something like that for an activity center. What specific activities would you like to see? They listed those, and I don't have them all here, but drama club, weightlifting, archery, and then some of them mentioned the gun safety course. So on a scale of 1 to 5, how important do you feel after-school activities are for the young kids or the youth in the community? 3.79 was your average score, so almost 4 out of 1 to 5, so that's pretty high in my opinion. But what programs would you like to see taught? This is the one that impressed me. They could have picked other. Drug prevention, 172 of the kids out of 282 said they would like to hear about drug prevention. Bullying prevention, 172. Cyber bullying and crimes, 144. Juvenile mental health, 162. And then other was 22. And again, that's you can pick as many as you thought applied. My thought on this is a safe place for the kids, and that's what we talk about as our teams and stuff. And when summer comes, I've talked to some of the teachers in the past, and last year when school was letting out, I've heard it when I was, throughout my career. These teachers worry about what these kids are going to do when they go home. Not all kids grow up in a good home. They don't have food on the table every night. They don't have a stable home to go home to. They may not have any parents when they get home. They're just free to run around or whatever they want to do. This kind of location will give these kids a spot to go to after school, and at least give them a safe place to go and be around their other friends. I don't know how much time I have here, Mayor, but I got some few other things here. So obviously with this, I hear a lot of transparency per se and things like that. The first I even mentioned this was a few days before the last council, and the mayor, when I was talking to him about it, and the reason it even came up is because West Virginia First has got grants going on right now. And the only reason I even knew that was going on is because I'm working towards my 2 grants, which is the school resource officer grant and then a drug task force grant. Well, the West Virginia First just happens to be expired at the same time. And when I was meeting with Tony Tiano, who you guys met on the last council meeting, I found out there's a grant for West Virginia First at the same time. We're obviously well into we're just barely in the infant stage of this, even being an idea. That's where I'm looking for council and the citizens and everyone else to help, because obviously a project like this is not going to be a one-man show by any stretch. But that's how that even started, in case anyone's interested on where this conversation even started. It became, even a concept when we sit down with the resource officer, Sergeant Harris, and the previous school resource officer, Adam Jones, and that's kind of where this idea even started. We did the survey. I thought that turned out great. Resource officers talked about daily lessons would be one of the things we could do there at the very beginning. Some kind of daily lesson, life skills, and educational on drugs and vaping, some of the stuff that they wanted, bullying, cyberbullying. That would be at the beginning of the time. As soon as they got there after school, 50, 80 of them, whatever shows up, just get them together, and 10, 15 minutes is all you would take on that. And then you would go into some activities and stuff with them. I talked about the safe place for them, and the opioid money itself, I haven't done enough research myself to know exactly what that could be spent on, whether it could be towards building or it would have to be towards the equipment and educational, maybe guest speakers coming in for the kids, things like that. You're going to need some art stuff. You saw where the kids talked about arts. They talked about music lessons and things like that. So that's going to take equipment and stuff. If they don't have the stuff, the kids that can't afford it don't have it to bring with them. When I talked to Adam Jones, he said the music teacher there from Jackson is working outside of school with some kids right now on some different programs, and sure that they would be happy to go there and do some stuff too. Maybe that opioid money could be, over that West Virginia First. If we can get some grants from them, maybe some of that can go towards salary for a few years for the people that's working it. But I think the long term, I don't know, because I'm not the professional here, obviously, I'm a policeman, but long term, I would say the city would either, I hope they don't have to support it. You know, I've heard other places like YMCA, Boys Clubs, and things like that, pick up these programs. Once you establish them and get them going and everything, they can't do that. But once you get it going, you may be able to get an agency like that to come in and just man it. We're talking 15, 20 hours a week is what we're talking about our school. So maybe a program like that, manning it after it's all done, so it's not a city burden forever. I think the biggest hurdles we're gonna have is probably just getting the building going. I've talked to Craig, and a lot of you know where the community building is, obviously. There's a big empty lot right across from it. Right there is the Jackson Middle School. They can walk right over to the activity center, which would be the youth center, right after school. That's just one of the ideas that we had, and I walked down there with the old resource officer and kind of looked at that. And there's other things going there, but we'll have to be creative. I don't know where else we could put it, but that's where I'm totally open to ideas from council, citizens, and everything else. But this isn't going to be a project that I'll be able to see from point A to point B. It's something I'm going to need a lot of input and help, and a project type manager or whatever. But maybe that's where the city has the ability to step in. But that's why I'm coming to council, basically.
Okay, so you're aware, because we've had conversations about this, that we still have $180,000. We have the money, it's in our account already for the $180,000. So with that money, there are stipulations, of course. There are 4 categories that you have to fit this program in. The diversion and education category seems to be where we would fit. They're going to give 4 $200,000 grants per region from the First Foundation. And so we're actively working with Tony Tiana to put that grant together based on those parameters. Now, we tie this back into the Jackson Park Elementary School project. If this project for the elementary school moves forward, then we have to move the Vienna Rec building. There was some concern about taking it apart again, what condition it's like, how much difficulty it would be to rebuild that building. So Craig is working with some of the construction companies that specialize in these modular buildings to see if that's even a possibility. So we'll get those answers, we'll get costs. Obviously, the easiest thing to do would build a brand new building, but that cost may be, too high. If we have to move that building, we need a place to move it to anyway. And so if that building could be repurposed, that building is huge. Okay? When you look at the community building, the other building would be about 2 times the size of the community building, which is big. I know all the survey things that were there. They want gaming areas, they want mentoring, tutoring areas so they can do these activities, the arts, the music, all of that. And I think that would be fantastic if we could get those programs established. So right now, the information that we're trying to gather is the numbers of what it would cost to get. If we can get the building built, then I'm sure that you all, with some resources, can take care of that and get the schedule established. But really, the handicap now is where do you put this building at, and how do you get it done? So we'll wait on Craig to get the numbers back. We'll make another presentation with those numbers. But we continue to work towards the grant. I know that the First Foundation is very proactive in getting these grants out, but it's highly competitive. I mean, I know in our region alone, there's already 10. So, well, we'll see. I think that Carl, that you all have done a fantastic job asking the kids what they want. I'm still a big believer, if you don't get them in middle school, you're never going to get them. And so if we can get to these kids, 6th, 7th, 8th graders, that's where your opportunity lies. The other thing that concerns me, and we've had this discussion, is with the school consolidations that are coming, you're going to lose these athletic teams that all of the kids like to participate in. And so, let's just say, for example, you go from 4 middle schools to 2, or 5 to 3. you lose at least 2 football, 2 baseball, 2, not baseball, basketball teams that kids would normally have participated in. I think right there, our Vienna Rec programs, if we can step that up, then we can still give those kids that, because there's, only a limited amount of schools now, that we can still give those kids an opportunity to experience the team concept, what it's like to work with, your peers and all that. So there's lots of opportunities here that we're very blessed that Vienna Rec is on board. I know that Chuck and all the other members of that, they love to have this. There's opportunities there that if you run the after-school program from 3 to 6 every day, Monday through Friday, that building can be used on weekends, evenings, for whatever activities Vienna Rec would run. There's just lots of opportunities, and so, Chuck, I know that you're nodding. I think that you all would be on board with the development of that.
Well, absolutely. I mean, especially being able to multi-purpose and provide additional things for the community and kids after school that's really going to be advantageous. Right there at Jackson location, it would be ideal, for sure. Vienna Rec would be willing to do whatever we could to contribute to that, for sure.
You're the liaison to the Vienna Rec and the park board. I know that you and I have had conversations. Your thoughts?
Yeah, so I 100% agree. I think this is great. This survey was surprisingly, optimistic. I love the ideas that they had and things that they're interested in. And I'd be interested to know if a parent survey can also be done, or a parent guardian survey, just to kind of see what, from their perspective. I have relationships through the middle school with several kids I would consider at risk, and I would be interested to know what their parents and guardians would be supportive of, or would be willing to allow their kids to participate in.
I get hold of Mr. Kisner and we can get something sent, see if we can send it to Jessica. I know they got a program, texting and everything else, maybe they can send something to them to a text.
Right, I think that would be great. And even and it could be, it could be this exact survey for the parents, or you could have some additional things.
I'm saying we tweak it to where we see, is it going to be beneficial and helpful to you to have your children there until 6 o'clock so you can drive or what have you, or see how it's going to affect their lives, how hard it's going to be for them to get back and forth, maybe some kind of transportation.
Because even in some of the dysfunction, it may make perfect sense for those kids to come to this, and their people, for whatever reason, may not want them to. So
parents, we can leave sections for them to, leave comments and extra ideas and things like that.
Yeah, so I would definitely like to see that. I think that's great. I like I think having something in close proximity to a school, so that it's not, you're not worrying about transportation or anything like that. They can just walk over to it. I'm going to ask a question, and I have a couple follow-ups that don't have anything to do with that question. First, so at the onset of the program, who we foresee staffing it? Would it be the resource officers, or who would be the?
I know that's
hire at least 2 people to do that.
Okay.
But all of the educational things, the 10-minute, 15-minute, whatever you want to call it, educational thing, whether it's drug training or whatever, would come under the resource officers.
correct.
Okay, or someone that is an expert in that field. Might not be the 2 police officers.
And it could be a youth pastor from the area that wants to come in and do a little 10 or 15-minute deal. It could be, any of the other foundations or anything else that comes in. Any of the Game Changer. We had Game Changer stuff. Well, they were supposed to be here. I don't know if they ever did make it, but Game Changer from the high school. That's kids that's teaching other kids about the drugs and how their life was affected by the drugs.
So initially, we were thinking 2 employees, okay? Because with that many kids, you gotta have some eyes on it. And, there'll be questions and need help and what have you, but the resource officers or someone would be one of the ones that would come and do the initial part of it. Every meeting, every day, or whatever schedule they can work out, so that we do get the information aspect of it out there.
I wonder even, just off the top of my head, if any of the crossing guards, because a lot of them have good relationships with the kids, if any of them would be interested in additional time, you know, they're already on the police payroll,
That's true.
that maybe some of the crossing guards would be interested in something like that, especially just from extra people, extra adults, and being present could be good. Okay, next. As we're talking about either building a new building, especially when I think about building a new building, and I'm also thinking, you know, about being able to use it as much as possible, obviously. So the 3 to 6, Monday through Friday would be the critical time for that particular focus. So I was, in my mind, I was always wondering, could we rebuild the community building and make it even bigger? Or in the beginning, if we don't have the building yet, can we start the program and just put it in the community building until the new building is done, whether it's the old rec building or a brand new one? So all of that kind of lumped together, can we start the program before we have a designated or their own building, or do we?
So let's talk about that for a second. The community building is big enough, okay? You could do that. However, because the community uses the community building frequently, in order to do the activities that they recommend, you would have to have foosball tables, ping pong tables, they ask for some gaming consoles. The problem with that is we don't have any area to move that stuff and store it, and you don't want to move that stuff every day. Now, could the program be started? Yes, it could. But you would have to limit your activities to things that could be managed from a equipment standpoint. Because it's got bathrooms, it's a nice building, it's a good sized building, okay? But, ideally, that would be a temporary situation.
Chief, do we have a target date that we would like to do it, or
No, literally, when I come in last council, it was probably 4 or 5 years before that, and I met with Tony on grants and things like that, maybe 3.
So we would need to see if, because what's the timeline on West Virginia First? How soon do you know, like once you apply for something like that, how soon do we know?
Well, the deadline's October 5th.
Right.
So we're gonna meet that deadline. But after that, they say they're gonna award these grants quickly because they wanna get the money out into the community working.
And even before that, we already have the opioid settlement money that we could use as our seed money or our starter money for the program.
Yes, if council wishes. Okay?
I have a question about the grant.
Time out, one more thing. Okay. Some good news for you, Chris. Pickering has volunteered to be the engineering firm to help with all of this. How do you like that, old buddy? Okay? So Ryan says he will help with us, whatever the development is, the old building or the new building. Kim.
Okay. So I did look up the grant, and it says you can apply. Initial opportunity grants are now open, okay? So nonprofit organization that qualifies, 501c3, tax exempt, that's not the city of Vienna. Tax exempt organization under IRC 115 or other similar organizations, that's not the city of Vienna. Organizations with a statewide presence may apply in the region where they are headquartered or where the project will be located. So that's not us either. So how can we apply for this grant as the city?
I was only in that meeting with Tony. She seemed to see we would be able to get into it. It's not to build. It would be for the preventative side, and she's saying we could do it for the equipment that's going to go in there, salaries and things like that.
Right. So I know it's all in here. I printed this whole packet off. I think it's a great idea.
I'm only going off of what I met with Tony.
Right. I'm trying to figure out how we can qualify.
Kim, if I can answer that question for you.
Pardon me?
May I answer that question? Mayor Tom Joyce is on the board, okay? And so he understands the rules very clearly. And I did check that with him before I ever started down this road with the chief and these resource officers. The city of Vienna is qualified. We will be eligible for this funding.
Okay, because my question is, we have at least 2 501c3s here that, is that going to be something that would be designated through them? Is that how we're going to do it? Because, I'm just
The city of Vienna will qualify.
Okay.
Hey Craig, is that the floodplain? The golf goes by Pond Run?
Actually, it's not. The walkway that's currently through there is shown in the floodplain, yes, but, if you actually shoot the elevation wise, it's out, but it's a recommended floodplain in that area, so.
Did you not get the map, Jim? I sent that out to everyone.
I didn't, so I didn't look for that question. I just remember football practice down there and, you know, when the water was up, just kind of wondering how far it's gonna come.
Right here it is, Jim. You all should have received that.
Yeah, like I said, I didn't
Okay.
process that question when you popped in that in.
Chief, I really appreciate you taking the time to even put this survey together and try and gather information on this. You know, I think all of us would agree that our youth in this area need, I call it a third place, somewhere that's, even as an adult, it's not home, it's not work, but it's a third place that I can go to spend time and hang out with friends, and build community, which I think is such a, huge need for us here. And it's definitely something that I think the city of Vienna could really latch onto. If you think about it, having the YMCA is in Parkersburg, the Boys and Girls Club is in Parkersburg. The city of Vienna really doesn't have a great third place for the youth. And I can see that being used very frequently, even, as you said, right after school. I know so many kids that, walk and ride bikes and stuff through our community, and having it centrally located is definitely important. When the meeting was announced on Tuesday, it kind of sparked some ideas for me, and something that I think Mrs. Fool, when she was interviewing, even brought up having a place for kids to play board games, or even interacting with the senior center. And that kind of popped into my mind. Could we utilize the senior center facility and have overlap with our youth and our seniors in one building? There is sort of a gym there that they can use for activities, but then also the other side for board games or other things like that. I mean, that could be an option. But having that third place, I think, is really important. And how that looks and how that works out, and if it's a new building or not, I think we can kind of work through a lot of that stuff. And I really like what you said about working with the YMCA, because that was one of my thoughts too, is, well, can we just work with the YMCA to get transportation from Jackson to the YMCA temporarily? What was my my other thought there, for that third place was, kids, how can we kind of incentivize them or get them to kind of participate in the community? And what would it look like if, say, we set up an EA Sports gaming center with Xboxes and PCs and that kind of thing in a facility? Could we encourage them to say, for every 3 hours of community service you do, you get access to this room for so much amount of time, or something like that, to really, not just so it's one place for everyone to go hang out, but it's a place that people can go out into the community from and connect to. As far as mentorship goes and stuff too, I think that's where my idea went for the senior center was, man, what better mentors than the senior center and that group of people in our community to work with, and that has the time, hopefully, to work with the youth. I think that'd be really great. So I'm really encouraged by this. I appreciate the work that you've done, and, I would be happy to help kind of facilitate the programming and design and figuring out how much space and cost something like this might be, but I think that's really good.
And I thought your ideas were great as far as like to the senior center, especially if they enjoy that. Transportation might be one of our tricky things in the beginning.
Yeah.
Getting the kids excited about going to a senior center might be. And you start taking their space with pool tables and stuff that the younger generation will want to do. That might be a problem. I'm just brainstorming along with you, but what you're saying, that's the vision that I'm here for, is to help with where it's going to go. I think we're limitless with what we can do. and change lives for our teens. If we spend some money here, okay, I don't know what it's gonna be. Greg's obviously gonna work on numbers and stuff like that. It might be so high that we can't even do it. I don't know. But if we just change a couple kids' lives, isn't that what we're trying to do? I mean, that's the goal. That's what I've always said my whole career. If there's just, when I worked in the drugs and at the task force for 3.5 years, I can only tell you maybe 4 or 5 people that touched base with me that lives were changed with those people. But that was worth it, just with 4 or 5. I'm sure there was more that's lives changed from just, dealing with the task force and what have you, but to hear from those 4 or 5 is usually a blessing, and it is about the kids. When we go to the school zones in the morning and these little kids, some of them, believe it or not, you get out and give them 5, and the teacher like, yeah, his parents have had bad run-ins with the police, and I'm sure they've talked poorly about us, which is fine, that's understandable. But now that child, it's ingrained in them that we're the bad people. So that's why we're trying to get into the schools more, we're trying to get down there, and you guys start hearing, I'm trying to get the guys every morning to greet the kids coming in, give them high fives and what have you, and can we make a difference? I sure hope so.
I think in the middle school age also, I think it's important for them to start to have more context of each other outside of school, because you have your school relationship. Like I remember having, I would sit beside the same person every day in class, but I only knew them as my classmate in that particular class. And now with social media, they go from having a classroom experience with each other to this virtual experience with each other. And I really like the third place thing. But having that additional space to just be a kid and just be regular and just like, oh, you like that too? I like that, and maybe those relationships will help actually mitigate some of the things that may happen in the classroom and in the school when they don't have relationship with each other. They just don't know each other. They don't have a relationship with each other. So if we can foster that just by them just being, almost like brothers, sisters, cousins kind of thing, hanging out, that would be great.
And to put it in perspective as adults, I was talking to someone here the other day, and they said, it's kind of like your favorite restaurant. Everyone here has got a favorite restaurant that you go to. Why do you go to that restaurant every single time when you have that go-to? It always has the consistency of the food and the consistency of the good atmosphere. If you've got a place that these kids have fun once or twice, but it's not ever consistent, it's like a couple days a week, if you went to that restaurant, good meal this time, 3 bad meals, you're gonna quit going to that one. So if this place is consistent all the time, so we're going to build something that is, we can't just give them something they're not gonna enjoy. We've got to listen to them, and we've got to give them something that's going to last and not just be quick and over.
Okay, I'm going to say this. I mean, I think I can call out a local small business. If we gave it, if kids could feel the same way about walking into a place like that as the people who love like the bodega, you've got like bodega followers that like as soon as they walk in, it's their happy place, and if we could create that happy place for teenagers. Man, that'd be gold.
I was thinking about it, it's for the middle school, so it's for 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. If we've got these, the buzz going about this place, these 3rd, 4th, 5th graders are like, I can't wait to get into middle school next year. I can go to the youth center. I mean, it might be a place that they look at that way. So that's just my thoughts on it and kind of my excitement about it, but I'm not the one who's going to make it happen because I don't have the total vision, I can guarantee you that.
Mr. Scott, you represent the prosecutor's office daily. What are your thoughts?
I also have 2 kids. As far as keep teenagers busy, keep teenagers, well, the old saying is idle hands are devil's plaything, right? Give them somewhere to go, give them adequate supervision, give them things that they want to do, not things that you want to do. Try to get as many kids as you can. You guys do a great job as far as targeting the athletes and folks that are interested in doing things outside. I have kids that play sports, but just because you play sports doesn't mean you're not interested in other things, and they're off season. And I was thinking about, and I was talking to Chuck about it, esports might be something that's huge with 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. They have an esports team at WVU now, if you can believe that. And I know that we don't want to encourage kids. The whole point is to encourage kids to go outside and play and what have you. But there are, 4 or 5 months out of the year where it's tough to go outside and play. It was overlap with school. And I can tell you, as a kid that grew up, well, I don't want to bore you with how I grew up, but as a kid that grew up without a lot of supervision, some of the best times I had was when I got to go to the Boys and Girls Club and do stuff because I had people there. I love the idea of the senior center. I'm not, and I say the idea of the senior center because, and you smile when they say it before, there's a lot of value that can be exchanged between both the seniors and the kids. And there are a lot of good ideas. You need a place to go, you need a place that's consistent, you need to keep the kids busy, you need to keep the kids doing things that they're interested in, not the things that we want to do. It's like when you deal with anybody, you can have all the plans in the world, and we can sink a bunch of money into something, but if the kids aren't interested in doing it, they're not going to show up. So that's why I was thinking, and we all don't like video games, but they do. We don't like, and so let's go into the competitive part of it. Esports is great. Set up something that they can play. Dungeons and Dragons for the kids that play that apparently has made a comeback. I have no idea. But they're playing games, board games, just things that keep them busy for those 2 or 3 hours. Put a space in there so kids can do their homework. That'd be a great place for outreach for tutoring. There are lots of things that you can do. Whatever you do, if we get the kids now and you get them doing something positive, they are less likely to sit around and have a lot of time to do the things that are negative or can get them into trouble later. And you know this, Carl, the kids the adults that we see, and Carl's touched a lot of people's lives. 4 or 5 of them have been positive. A lot of them have not been positive for them, but they've been positive for the rest of us. But if we can get to them now and keep them busy, my kids, it may not be for my kids, but it may not be good. It may not have been something for Henry's kids because Henry's kids have the thing. But there are a lot of kids out there that don't have a thing, and they don't all have the sports thing. And we've got that pretty well covered. But that's, if you're asking me, that's my thoughts.
The other thing too is we've got several very talented young people in our area. I can envision, Zach Weigel coming up, bring these race cars up here. He's been racing since he could sit on a crate, and he's extremely good. We can get Hank to come in and teach people how to sing like Elvis Presley. There's lots of kids, and there's such a wide variety of interests that you could do. I think it's something we need to work on. All right? All right, Chief, thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right. And for you all, if you check the city's website tomorrow, we'll download the survey so that you all can see all the questions that were asked and the results from those kids. It's quite interesting. It's not very long. It will take hours to read it. But we'll do that. And we'll download the 2 pictures of the annexation and with 1 of the floodway so that you all can answer questions and have some information that is factual. All right? That concludes our agenda for this evening. Are there any council comments? I have 1. I actually have 2. Next week, we're going to have a very special council meeting. Jeff Sandy is bringing in representatives from the governor's office. There'll be a honor guard here from the Marine Corps League. They're going to present Tom Azinger's family with flags that were flown over the Capitol. And so it should be a very impressive ceremony. Because of that, we're going to move council meeting to the community building. I don't think we have room in here. There's probably at least 20 members of Tom's family. And I don't believe we have room in here to handle all of the crowd plus the guests. And then stick an honor guard in here because they have a routine that they go through to do this. Very impressive. So we're going to move the council meeting to the community building. It'll be the same time, 6 o'clock. And we will start the meeting with the presentation from the governor's office and the Marine Corps League. The second part of that is that will be the meeting where we interview the people that have registered to fill out the unexpired term of Mr. Bibby. And so we will interview them and then we will select a new council member that evening. So I don't know of any other agenda items that are out there yet, but if they do, we'll add them up, and but the two big ones will be the interviews for the councilperson and the presentation of the flags to the Azure family. So, any other council comments? All right. Thank you all for coming this evening. Craig, Kevin, thank you very much.